Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. This is our first ABA Open House seminar. Thank you guys so much for coming. Just as a little introduction about myself to begin, my name is Savannah Phelan. I am one of the instructors at UCSB PACE program. I am a former Gaucho. I went to UC Santa Barbara for my undergrad degree. I have a degree in psychology. I also am now a BCBA located in Los Angeles. After getting my grad degree, I did move down here, was able to work in home and clinic-based early intervention, and I'm currently at an NPA, which is a non-public agency, contracted with charter schools. So I work with students kindergarten to 12th grade. I also serve as a BCBA and a BCABA supervisor and instructor with UCSB PACE. And when I'm not teaching, I like to cook, paint with watercolors, or go camping. We have a bunch of fantastic instructors at UCSB PACE, and I am just one of them. But I really do love participating and being able to instruct a lot of our courses. So, some of the perks of our program, our classes are virtual and totally asynchronous, meaning you do not have to attend live, which is really helpful for students to set their own schedule. I know that when I was going to school for grad school, I wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to be a BCBA, but in order to get those supervised fieldwork hours, I needed to work regular work hours. So, regular typical attending school was not easy for me. So hopefully this will give you that same flexibility to allow you to review all of our lectures, whatever time that you need. And this also is helpful for students who are not located in our time zone, either in different parts of the country or even internationally. Our instructors are all very seasoned BCBAs. We have real industry experience and diverse backgrounds. We work in different areas. We are not all located in Santa Barbara. So it is really nice to be able to see different views and different perspectives. Our instructors are available via email, live weekly office hours sessions, or by appointment for one-on-one support. I think one of the highlights of our program is that you can always reach your instructors and everyone is very available. I do think that that is a really big benefit for a virtual program. You want to make sure that you have some touch points there. We also offer quarterly webinars for free to all of our students. We have a variety of current topics. They change every quarter, every year. And if you ever have topics that you want to read about or you want to hear about, please do let us know. If you don't have a supervisor in your current workplace or you're not working in an ABA with an ABA agency, that's no problem. UCSB PACE has a standalone supervision course open to students who need support fulfilling those supervised fieldwork hours. And of course, passing the big exam is always everyone's number one mission after they get through our course. And we have a lot of supports for that. So our competency course and optional study prep course allow students opportunities to hone their test taking skills. So here's a sneak peek at our platform. We use the Canvas learning platform. You can see in every class you have access to all of our course policies, expectations, syllabus, and of course tools to help you navigate the space. We have a lot of tutorials and videos and a lot of setup. I hear a lot of students tell me this might be their first return to school after a long time, or perhaps this is their first virtual course. And if that's the case, please do not worry. We have all sorts of supports and tutorials available to walk you through the process. Most of our students find that it's very user-friendly. After the first time or two logging in, they're able to find everything they need. So, on to some of our coursework requirements. We have two different tracks, the BCBA or the BCABA track. So, our BCBA track is for students who have already obtained a graduate degree. A graduate degree would be a master's degree or higher, and it can be in any field, or if you are concurrently earning a graduate degree, meaning if you are already in school right now to get that master's degree, you're eligible to take our BCBA level courses. To complete our program, candidates must complete 7 courses with a letter grade of C or higher and pass our ABA competency course, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. In order to become a board certified behavior analyst, this is not all you have to complete. Remember that UCSB is a school and is not a credentialing body. So we are here to help you complete those 315 coursework hours, get your coursework attestation saying that you've completed them. Then, in addition, you're going to need to accrue 2,000 supervised fieldwork hours and pass the exam administered by the BACB. If you want more information, visiting the BACB's website is your best bet to get information on how to become a BCBA and to determine what those supervised fieldwork hours and all these requirements are going to look like for you. In terms of our course structure, each week on Canvas, you'll see a post on Monday detailing the week's information. You'll have information about upcoming course assignments. If you have checkpoint assignments, meaning a midterm assignment, you can find all those dates on the course syllabus. And then, of course, you'll have a recorded lecture and lecture notes linked every Monday by end of day. Our recorded lectures are a really big, strong point of our program. You get in-depth, amazing information with lots and lots of samples and suggestions. And our instructors, again, are very available to provide additional support in terms of questions. All of your course assignments will be due the following week, making sure that you have plenty of time to work through all the materials, get your readings, make sure you've reviewed our lecture information, and to pass your quizzes, include your discussion forums. And if you're in the BCBA cohort, you have BDS modules, which we'll talk about on our next slide. Our courses conclude with a final project and a cumulative final exam. One really important thing to remember that sets our program apart from others is that we are on the quarter system. This means that instead of an 18-week semester, you're able to work through a course in just 10 weeks. For this reason and for that pace, we do recommend that students take one course at a time. Realistically, unless you've started out with a lot of supervised fieldwork hours already, if you've taken courses perhaps at another program, you're going to need at least 2 hours to get your fieldwork hours, or 2 years to get your fieldwork hours complete, excuse me. So that means that you should be kind to yourself. Take one course per quarter, make sure you have the time to focus, really get the best grades that you can, and make sure that you really fully understand the material. By the time you're finished with your supervised fieldwork hours, you'll be just finishing up with the course. So that will be a really great match. Here is what Canvas looks like. Here is a sample post of what one of my courses looks like this quarter. So each week you'll see these modules. You'll have lecture links, slide notes, discussion posts. The welcome week, you'll have our syllabus. Then, of course, each week has the date, lets you know exactly what needs to be done, including readings, extra optional videos, etc. So when you log in, it really gives you everything you need in one handy place, and it makes it super simple to keep track of your deadlines. For our BCBA program, we offer a variety of courses. So once again, you will need to take the mandated 7 courses. You'll see them here. And then, of course, our competency course at the end. We have courses available fall, winter, spring, and summer quarter. So that way you can pace yourself and take your courses as you choose. We do not have a mandated order. You're able to start at any time. So if you're thinking about taking courses soon, this is a great way to just jump in at the next quarter and get started. We do have courses that are part of a series. You'll see part 1, part 2 of our philosophical underpinnings, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have to be taken in that order. If you can take them in that order, fantastic. If not, don't worry, we can definitely catch you up and you'll get enough information to be able to pass both courses in any order you take them. We'll also talk a little bit about our optional courses later in this lecture. So for our BCBA track, we do have homework that is mandated. They are the BDS, or Behavior Development Solutions, CBA Learning Module Series. I know that sounds like a lot of acronyms at once, so let me describe that a little bit better for you. This module series is a subscription-based learning platform with weekly assignments posted to Canvas found in your course syllabus. Over the course of all of your courses, you'll get to have different levels, different areas, and you'll see that they're all aligned with the task list. We are currently in the 5th edition task list, so everything that you see will be aligned with the 5th edition. And next year for the 6th edition test content outline, it's actually not going to be called a task list next year. Starting in January, you'll see that these changes are made and everything is going to align. Those modules that you complete will receive credit based on your score. So if you complete 100% of the module, you get 100% of the credit. And then we deduce your points after that based on what percentage of the module you complete. Those due dates will be posted to your syllabus, to your weekly module. And it'll be very clear when those are due and exactly what you need to complete. The beautiful thing about BDS modules is you can retake them just about as many times as you'd like. There is a cap of about 20 trials, but if you take it once, twice, or 3 times and find that you want to continue, you're always welcome to come back to it. Only your best score will be counted. The other really great thing about BDS modules is if you take all of your courses over the course of 2 years, you might find yourself trying to remember things that were from a long time ago. Because you can retake those modules, you're welcome to use those as a study tool, especially the fluency section, which gives you a timed version with very quick questions. The CBA Learning Module Series is the premier BCBA and BCABA curriculum supplement and exam prep tool, and they have a 98.5% pass rate, meaning someone who has completed all of those modules is going to pass at an average rate of 98.5%. They are so confident in all of their modules that they actually boast a money back guarantee. So if you don't pass the exam after completing the entire series of all of these modules, you can always reach out to them, and then they will be able to extend your subscription. Sorry about that. So that you can continue to take them and study for your next sitting of the exam. Many of our students tell us this is the only study tool that they need, and it really helps them to be able to get that idea of what those test questions look like. The BCBA exam and the BCABA exam are unusual in that there are not mock exams put out by the BACB that will give you lots of old test questions. This isn't like the SAT. So we're going to have to find different ways to take our mock exams, and we'll talk about a couple of ways that we support that later in this series. But the BDS modules are actually designed to look just like the exam. And so it's a really good way to get used to that format and follow those multiple choice questions so that you're getting used to seeing different types of vocabulary. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the competency course. I want to give you a little bit more information. So the competency course is relatively new at UCSB PACE. We've been doing it for about a year or so. What's really interesting about this course is that this is a way that we can determine if students are mastering our material. So in order to demonstrate mastery there's going to be a series of cumulative assessments, meaning you take this course ideally after you've finished all your other coursework, or in your last quarter when you're taking maybe just one other course. This course is our only one of the series that is self-paced, meaning if you run through all of these assessments in a week or 2 weeks or 10 weeks, you're able to finish whenever you complete it within that quarter. So to pass our mastery criteria, you have to pass 2 half-length or 2-hour mock exams covering currently our 5th edition task list, a full 4-hour mock exam covering the task list, and then sign up for an oral competency exam with an instructor. Right now, our competency exams, I've done a number of them with my students for this quarter as we're just rounding out our summer quarter. They take about 15 to 20 minutes, and it's going to be a pop quiz, essentially, of the task list items. So I'll go through that 5th edition task list, select 5 randomized questions, and ask the participant, our student, to give me an answer, essentially saying, define and provided 2 examples of reinforcement and punishment. Tell me the difference between frequency and rate collection data. And we'll go through different types of questions from each of the sections so that we can get a good idea of what information you're retaining and what information you may need to supplement. We have had a really, really standout collection of students come through already. And we actually find that after you've completed those mock exams, the oral competency exam is the easiest part. My students are often telling me that they are most nervous for it, and they breathe a sigh of relief because at that point, when you've studied that much, you've got all the information you need. So once a student has met mastery criteria for each of these assessments, they pass the course and are eligible to submit their coursework attestation to Dr. Kim. This form is required for your BACB application, which determines your eligibility to sit for the BCBA or BCABA exams. So let's switch gears a little and talk about the BCABA track. To be eligible for this area of certificate, students must already have obtained a bachelor's degree or are concurrently earning that degree, meaning if you do not have your master's yet, this might be another area that you can look into. A BCABA is an assistant behavior analyst, and this is actually a certification that I earned before I got to my BCBA. These are useful certifications to have in a variety of different settings. And the best part about it is that it's a little bit easier coursework requirement, only 6 courses instead of 7, which is only 225 coursework hours. You have less supervised fieldwork hours, so only 1,300 are required to sit for the exam. And the exam is just a little bit shorter as well. So keep in mind, this is definitely an opportunity or a possibility if you want to get through the program a little quicker. So our courses for the BCABA, you can see are listed here. This includes, philosophical underpinning, single case design, behavior assessment and change procedures, ethics, and then personnel supervision and management. These courses are very, very similar to our BCBA courses, but they give you a little bit more of a bite-sized picture and talk about different ways that you might apply them in a slightly different setting. All of our courses are offered in interactive, online, asynchronous format, and students are required to, of course, complete those weekly assignments through Canvas. You will see that our Canvas setup or our course setup is going to be the same for both BCBA and BCABA exams. You'll have those weekly modules, live recorded lectures, you will have your slides available to you, your readings, and all of that information posted each week to a module. Okay, so we do have a few of our optional program supplements as well. I know a lot of students often ask about these courses, and I wanted to make sure we had some time to review them on their own. So optional supplements do not count toward the 6 or 7 required courses for either the BCBA or BCABA pathway. However, they do allow you to supplement. So if you need supervision, if you are working at an agency and perhaps your supervisor does not have a BCBA, or is not able to supervise for you. If you are working in a different area, I've had a lot of students come through for supervision who are teachers or working in a school setting. Someone might be a tutor or a speech and language pathologist. Someone else who might be, working in a setting where they're not directly supervised by a BCBA. Those students all need ways to accrue supervision fieldwork hours, and we have an answer for that in our XLRN 809A course. So you must be enrolled in each quarter to continue accrual of hours. So for our students who want to accrue all of their hours through our course, you'll want to sign up for this every single quarter. This course is a lot easier in terms of time management than our traditional courses. So keep in mind that you can complete a supervision and a single course at a time without too much trouble. In your supervision course, you're going to meet one-to-one with your instructor 3 or 4 times a month. You're going to meet with your group. You're going to have 1 or 2 discussion type assignments, so nothing too crazy. No quizzes, no final projects. This is all going to be related to what you do and how you work through your individual coaching with your supervisor. Live supervision of a session and or video recording of a client session is required by the BACB for this level of supervision. So do keep in mind that there has to be some way that you can record yourself implementing these strategies. If you do not have any work with clients in ABA capacity and you still want to take this course, please reach out. There are some opportunities available for UCSB to help support you in finding clients and connecting you with clients that you can earn the supervision hours. Our next optional program is XLRN 809B. This is our study prep program. A lot of students get this confused with the competency course. So keep in mind the competency course is required and the study prep program is optional. So our competency course is self-paced. It is primarily assessments, but our study prep program has a lot more in-depth knowledge. So this is a 6-week course, a little bit shorter than our traditional 10. And you will have a pre-test with a full-length mock exam and a post-test with a full-length mock exam. But between those two, we're going to have some instruction. So there are 4 live weekly lectures. This is a really unusual model. This is the only course in our series or that we offer that has live lectures, meaning you can log in at whatever time is set by the instructor, for example, 5 p.m. on a Monday, and you can see your instructor teaching live just like a webinar. You can stop them, you can ask questions, you can bring your own questions or ask about different materials, and it's really a wonderful way to have live interaction with your instructor. There will be those live lectures discussing task list items, most missed exam questions, which is what I typically find students want to hear. And then there's also weekly pre-recorded mini lessons. So you'll get 2 or 3 mini lessons with bite-sized content about tricky topics. They're about 10 to 12 minutes long, and I find that they're a really good length for just a quick review. There are also optional homework tasks to supplement and support your exam study, but this is not a graded course. This is a pass or fail, just assuming that you participated in the program. The live discussion board is also available to discuss and study with your cohort. Usually we have a smallish cohort, 5 or 6 students, so it can be really nice to create a study group or create other connections with students who are also in the same level as you studying for an exam. There are also additional test study materials. I know when I teach the study prep program, I always get great recommendations for podcasts, videos, additional books, different types of ways to approach exam material, mnemonics, acronyms. So all those wonderful study materials will be available to you, and you'll have, of course, your whole cohort to supplement. So this course is also unusual, and that is open to new and returning PACE students. So if you did not take the whole verified course sequence, but you know someone who maybe is struggling to prep for the exam, we can also sign up here. All right, we are about halfway done in total. That leaves about 30 minutes for our questions. So please share any questions you might have in the chat. I'm happy to go back to different slides, discuss different topics, or just kind of hear out anything you might be interested in hearing. As a reminder, the Q&A section is available. We also have the chat open. All right, so discussion of the tuition cost and fees. I do not have the tuition cost right in front of me. That would be on our website. I don't know if Dr. Kim is available, if she can copy and paste that link into the chat. If not, I can find that and we can definitely send it out afterwards. That'll be on our UCSB PACE website. Another question about cost. So thank you, Dr. Kim. It is $680 per course for our main classes. I don't know that we have specific grants for this program. Maybe that's another one Dr. Kim can chime in about. Next question is, can I use hours from RBT as fieldwork hours? Absolutely. So a lot of our students come in who are working currently as an RBT, and you are welcome to use that time as your fieldwork hours. So we've had students who either accrue their hours independently through their job site, not through UCSB, or RBTs that come to us, and that's how they use their recorded videos. Dr. Kim is letting us know if you reside in the Santa Barbara area, there is a GROW grant available to you, but you must reside in the northern Santa Barbara County. So that might be a smaller subset of people, but that is a grant that's available. And I know that is also linked on our website. Next question, is it possible to start supervised hours after completing the coursework if you currently work in a different field? Absolutely, you may start them after. Your supervised hours cannot be started until you begin your first course. So if you wanted to complete all of your courses first, you're welcome to do so. Just keep in mind that it's going to be a little bit more challenging in terms of getting that time completed. So if you work in a different field and you want to maybe set aside, maybe take courses a little bit quicker or move through them at a pace that is helpful for you, and then do all of your supervised hours after, you could. I would say that the challenge is the BACB does update their coursework requirements every few years. So you don't want to extend past, 3 or 4 years for the entire process before you start risking having some challenges or some changes. Speaking of which, the test content outline, TCO6, that goes into effect in January is not going to affect, for once, our coursework requirements and fieldwork hours. It's just going to update our topics. You mentioned UCSB can provide opportunities for acquiring supervision hours for someone who has not worked directly in an agency. Are any of these opportunities remote? Yes, absolutely. I will say that we don't have a ton of availability, so definitely ask about it and make sure that we can set things up. But if you need to use remote supervision, that is something that we're able to do and have been able to do for supervision students in the past. Can I use field hours if you are not an RBT but a BSA? Absolutely. So you do not need to hold an RBT certification in order to accrue field hours. So exactly, Dr. Kim's reading my mind. You can work in any field. So BCBAs can work with a large company in terms of organizational behavior management. I've had a lot of teachers who work in schools. I've worked with tutors. I've worked with speech language pathologists. We even had one person do supervision who was an accountant. It's not to say that you have to be anyone, you have to have any one kind of job in order to get those supervised hours. You just have to be using those ABA principles. So keep in mind, depending on what your job is and what you might do, having different ways to implement those principles is what you really need to focus on. Is the capstone course required? So there is not necessarily a capstone course. I think you might be referring to our competency course, and that course is required. using notes or is it all what you know? This is a virtual course. If you want to use your notes, you're welcome to. But the idea is once you complete our competency course, you'll be able to finish exactly in a way that you can pass the exam. So when you pass the exam, you can't use notes, and we really encourage students not to. In terms of the oral competency course, or the oral competency exam, it's actually much easier than you think. We don't use notes, but I don't think that you'll need them by the time you've been able to pass those exams. Do you have to be enrolled in these courses first before you can start counting your fieldwork hours? Yes, you have to be enrolled in your first course. So keep in mind you don't have to complete them, but you just need to be enrolled in at least one course. Great question. If I'm in school working on my bachelor's, can I begin taking courses now? Absolutely. So you'd be working towards that BCABA credential if you are working on your bachelor's currently. Great, wonderful questions, guys. I'm going to scroll back through and double check to see if I've answered all of them so far, but please keep them coming. What is the criteria to be a supervisor? Well, in general, your supervisors are going to be your instructors. So all of your supervisors from the UCSB PACE program will have their BCBA and they will work in the field. They also have to pass a supervisor 8-hour training course with the BACB, so we have that information on file as well. Do we need to formally apply for the program or just enroll in the course sequence? You can just enroll in the course. The beautiful thing about this program is you can take it as you go. So enroll for a course for whichever quarter suits you, and then you'll be able to get started. No additional application is needed. Do we have any instructors in Ohio? I don't know specifically about instructors in Ohio, but we do have instructors on the East Coast for the East Coast time zones. In general, the location of your instructor is not as important as you reviewing the content online. I'll be graduating the fall of 2024. I don't have much experience, so I'm interested in the program. Would I just start with the coursework for the BCABA? So this is from the anonymous attendee. I want to see, in terms of graduating in 2024, I'm not clear if you're graduating undergrad. If you're graduating your undergrad degree, then yes, the BCABA program would be the best for you. Once you are enrolled in a master's program, or if you are graduating your master's program, you could start with the BCBA cohort. Let me go ahead and scroll back to those slides just so I have that written up here. It seems to be a common question. So as you can see, our BCABA track, to be eligible, you must have obtained your bachelor's or are concurrently earning that degree, meaning it's in process. So that would be our BCABA track. Next question, we have... If I start the 5th edition of coursework, will I need to be finished by a certain time frame? New editions are coming. So yes, the test content outlines 6th edition. I know they've changed the wording here, so it makes it a little confusing. Oh, sorry, Dr. Kim, are you raising your hand? I think she's popped in the chat. For additional follow-up questions after this webinar, you can email help@professional.ucsb.edu. Okay, so I'm going to get back into the content question. So 5th edition coursework, that exam will run through December 31st of this year, meaning the end of 2024. And our TCO 6 coursework will begin on January 1st. If you've taken your 5th edition coursework right now, all of this is going to work just fine. You don't need to retake a course that you took in the winter. We'll be able to work through, no problem at all. The general information does not change so much year to year. There's just additions. So you'll be seeing those additions in your coursework. In terms of taking your exam, if you had, for all of our students who are almost completed, they are in a little bit of a time crunch to begin their exam process by the end of this year. But for new students, that won't be an issue at all. So everything will be fine. You will not have any time crunch with the new 6th edition task list coming. And seeing question, how long is the first course? So all of our courses are exactly 10 weeks long. You can start with any course that is available to you. So for example, on the BCBA track, BCABA track, the fall quarter is what comes up next. So 318 behavior change procedures is what is offered. If you were working in the BCBA cohort, fall, we have behavior assessment and intervention. We also have professional issues and developmental disabilities. So those 2 courses are available in the fall. Our fall quarter, just so you're aware, starts on September. It's the 4th week of September. I believe it's the 24th. So it is starting soon. If you're not sure if you want to start just that quickly, you can always move to our winter quarter, which will begin in January. And yes, so if it is your undergrad that you're getting into, anonymous attendee, I would definitely recommend the BCABA cohort for you. Great question, Bonnie. So how many of the supervision courses would be required to complete the 2,000 hours? One thing about supervision is you can accrue up to 130 hours per month. So let me do a quick breakdown on how many months that is. That would be about 15.4 months. So our courses are 10 weeks, which is approximately 2.5 months. You can round that up to 3 realistically, based on how the supervision is accrued. So I would say you would need at least 5 courses, probably 6, to complete our 2,000 hours. So at least I would say 6 courses. And if you're in those quarters, keep in mind that when there's time for holidays or summer breaks or those kinds of things, sometimes your hours may dip, not necessarily because you're not getting enough supervision contacts, but because you might not have as many opportunities to practice sessions in those time periods. So it is always helpful to give yourself a little bit of leeway. Great question. Here's another good question. Do you have any advice about looking for a first job in the field that will count toward fieldwork hours? Are most jobs pre-BCBA certification at agencies? So yes, if you want to get a first job in the field, you've never worked in ABA before, getting a job somewhere that will certify you as an RBT, which is a registered behavior technician, is a really great way to start. There are many, many, many agencies depending on where you live. I know in LA area, for example, we have hundreds. There are opportunities to work in schools, opportunities to work at clinics, opportunities to work in homes. You can work with any kiddo from age like 2 to adults. You can work in group homes or adult developmental type of care facilities. So there's a really wide variety of tasks. So if you're looking for very simple, easy to get job, I would say a one-to-one would be a really good start. Usually if you have your college degree, you can get started there immediately, and then you'll be able to start to apply some of these techniques and you'll get some training. If you're looking for a different application, I know Dr. Kim was mentioning OBM, organizational behavior management. That's more of an HR related job that you might do at a much bigger company. Does not have to be a company related at all to developmental delays or disabilities. And it's not really an intro job, but another way that you can apply ABA knowledge would be in a criminal justice tract. So a lot of really cool, if anyone's ever watched Mindhunter on Netflix, that's about the very first BCBA style work that was being done in terms of a law enforcement. But yeah, so if you want to work at an agency, it would be very simple to apply, and they will usually certify you as a registered behavior technician if that's what's required. For example, I work in Los Angeles at schools, and our schools do not require RBT certification, so you can get hired pretty quickly and just complete onboarding training. Jenny has a question about the BCBA track. There's only one course offered in winter. If we started now, we could take a winter course and then need to take next winter off. Let me, oops, as I had the exact slide I needed. Currently, we offer Yes, just the one, required course in winter. Oh my goodness. So sorry, guys. Every time I click, it goes away. So there is the one required course in winter, 309A. We also, of course, offer supervision. We offer our study prep. We offer our competency course. So if you are finishing or culminating at that time, you're welcome to take those additional courses. Over time, depending on our enrollment, we can always look to increase as well. So if there is an opportunity that you really see, we have high enrollment, we are definitely able to open up more courses. This is just how we have our setup for the moment. Winter is our low season. Monica's question for financial aid, how can I apply when enrolling in the course? Dr. Kim, I'm going to let you take that one. I'm not sure that we offer financial aid, and I don't want to misspeak. Another question here, how are supervised hours transferred from current BCBA through an agency out of state to this program? Really good question. So when you go to the BACB's website and you look at that BCBA handbook, it will give you all the information you need about supervision. So your supervision requirements, you need to meet a certain number of times per month, you need to have a certain percentage of the hours that you work supervised, and you need to meet certain requirements. So at the end of each month, you'll have you'll have a contract in place ahead, but at the end of each month, you and your supervisor will fill out that sheet together. Your supervisor will sign, and you each retain a copy. The BACB only wants to see, well, the copies of those forms and or one kind of cumulative form that you'll have at the end. So if you have a supervisor right now through UCSB, but later get a job where you have a supervisor at work, you can use both. That's a-okay. They can combine. It's no problem. Each month, a different person will fill out your form depending on who it is. So if you had 6 months with the UCSB supervisors and then 11 months with your work supervisor, no worries. It doesn't need to be transferred through an agency out of state. Those forms can be signed digitally. They can be signed in ink. You can do it through the mail. So there's not too much challenge there in terms of how to get those forms back and forth. It's not, because the BACB is national and even international, it's not relegated to a single state. Excellent question. So I've, for example, had supervisees in Australia. I've had supervisees who are in Romania. I've had supervisees in on the East Coast of New Jersey. I've had them in Washington State. So any state, any area, the supervision is a-okay. Really good questions, guys. As a quick time check, it's about 5:45. So if you have additional questions, please share them now. You've gotten some really great ones coming so far. Happy to keep answering these. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there are any other exciting things we can chat about. Can you talk more about the GROW grant? Dr. Kim, if you could take that one over. I know that you can look forward.
Sorry,
Oh,
so I
go
was going
ahead.
to talk about a little bit about the GROW grant. If you reside in the North Santa Barbara County, we have a grant that can help cover essentially all of the costs of the tuition for the BCBA or BCABA courses. On our website, there is information about our GROW grant, and I can also link it in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'm not familiar with grants in Fresno County, but that is something you can definitely look into. You would need to be looking for grants that are available to cover tuition for non-undergrad programs. So you want to look for these type of certificate programs. I would definitely ask around if you work at an ABA agency. Oh, good question, Catherine. Since the BACB is national, is BCBA certification transferable to other states? Yes, your BCBA certification is above all of the states, so it works everywhere. There are not state-specific exams. However, some states, or I guess I should say many states at this point, require a licensed behavior analyst, which means you may have to sit for a different test in addition, or you may have to provide some additional paperwork after you get your BCBA. But the first step is always obtain that BCBA from the BACB, pass your exam, and then you can look into your state requirements. Great question. How many courses do you feel is a good course load for this program? Wonderful question, Shan. In general, I think most students should take just one course at a time. There's not really a benefit to taking two at once unless you have a lot of spare time. So if you're working a full-time job, one course is great, especially if you have, family, other people to care for. If you're maybe working part-time or you're a student and maybe in the summer, we do find a lot of people take two courses, especially if you had just completed some schooling and you have a lot more free time. Definitely feel free to take more, but I would not recommend taking more than two at a time. And for most of our courses, we don't offer more than two at a time. The only caveat or the change there is if you're also taking the competency course or the supervision course, those are different than our standard set. So you can take those in addition to another course without too much trouble. Just remember that competency course is either after you're completed with all your courses or in the last quarter when you're completing. Monica has a good question. Is this PACE program certified or a master's program? We are not a master's program. This is an addition, a certification program. So keep in mind, if you have not completed your master's, then you would be looking at that BCABA track. Or if you're in progress for master's, then you can use the BCBA track. Bonnie's question, is your BCBA track also international? I believe it said it as I enrolled in international track. So international track, we do have a separate cohort for those who are following the QBA certification model. There's a couple different verifications, but the information is not different. So keep in mind, if you want to attend either the international or the non-international course, you're going to get the same content. You just need to make sure that if you are in the United States, you are going to sit for that BCBA exam. You're going to want to make sure that you're using those BDS modules if you're in the BCBA track. Dr. Bell asked, can we attend graduation? Well, I would love to have an in-person graduation. We don't have one at this moment. So you would not be attending the graduation on UCSB's campus because we are, what is that word? We are a satellite campus. So we are not related in that way. We don't have a big graduation program at the end. It's also because our students take our courses individually, kind of piecemeal. So there's not really like a single quarter when everyone finishes. Monica's question, once finished with our BCABA track, can we get our master's at UCSB? So those are totally separate. You're welcome to pursue a master's at UCSB at any time. You don't need to be completed with the BCABA track. You could do those at the same time or separately. And the master's at UCSB would still require that application process. So you'd have to apply just like any other student at UC Santa Barbara. Shan's question, how many hours can someone accumulate in the proficiency course each semester? I'm not sure what you mean by the proficiency course. I think you mean the supervision course, perhaps. So again, every month, the BACB mandates that you cannot get more than 130 hours, 130, no problem. So during that supervision course, you can get up to 130 hours per month. When you're taking them concurrently, for example, right now, our summer quarter ends this Friday, upcoming Friday, and then our next our summer quarter ends this Friday and our fall quarter doesn't start for another 2 weeks. In those cases, when you have a supervisor, you can continue to meet with them in that time, even though it's between courses, so long as you're in both of the courses, right? So if you've applied for each quarter, we're going to continue to meet with you in the middle. There's no need to have any stoppage of hours in there. So again, 130 hours per month, which works out to about 15 and a half months of support to get to 2,000. So you'll need about 6 quarters. We do find that there are students who like to take some courses first and then only do supervision at the end. We do find that there's students who may take a brief hiatus from supervision and come back to it. So it's pretty flexible in that way. Bonnie's question, once you begin a course in the BCBA track, do you have 10 years to finish and sit for the BCBA exam with your hours accrued? I would have to take a look at that. Typically, I know that there is a number of hours, or I'm sorry, a number of years that you before your courses expire, essentially. But for example, right now, 10 years ago, the coursework requirements have changed many times. So it would be pretty challenging to wait that long. So I would say definitely target like 2-3 years would be ideal to get through your courses and your supervision. If you go a little slower, that's okay. But keep in mind that those policies do change over time. You will have a good heads up of about 2 years before coursework requirements change. But I would say don't if you think it's going to take 10 years, this might not be the time to begin. Glad I read your mind, Shan. Great questions, guys. Got about 10 more minutes left, so feel free to shoot those questions in. If you were taking one course, how long would it take to complete the program? So for example, if you were taking the BCBA cohort, there are 7 required courses. So if you took 7 quarters, that would be about a year and a half. Then you could take the competency course at the same time or afterwards. So typically we find that students can complete their coursework much faster than they can accrue their supervision hours. So that's why we always recommend if you have the time, just take one course at a time so that you can have plenty of things available to you. You can have plenty of time available to complete those readings and those projects. Yeah, most people do complete the courses first before their supervision hours are completed. We do find, especially we have students who are really type A, I am too, and want to complete their courses super quickly. They'll take as many as they can each quarter. And then they kind of say, oh no, now I have to just continue accruing these supervision hours. And that material is getting farther and farther from, top of mind. So we do find that there are students who say, man, I wish I didn't take them so quickly because then I had maybe 8 months until I sat for my exam and I really would have rather been in school the whole time keeping that stuff fresh. So most people do complete their coursework first. Of course, if there are any courses that you don't pass the first time, you may have to retake those. That'd probably be the only time that you would end up taking more than about a year and a half to finish those 7 courses. Oh, Bonnie, great question. Graduates from this program, where are they getting jobs? I can speak for some of the supervisees that I have worked with. I've worked with a few of my supervisees are in a non-public school. So that means that they work at a school solely for special education, and they're able to get jobs pretty quickly. Those were kind of offered to them before they took the program. I have another fantastic supervisee who was able to get into a PhD program after she completed her BCBA. She wanted to go more of a research route. I have another fantastic supervisee who is pushing really hard for international support. She wants to go to Mexico and open up clinics there because there's not as much ABA support. So that's something she was looking into in terms of starting her own company, her own business. Sunny, do you have any other great previous graduate stories of people getting jobs in different areas? Catherine, I wanted to answer your question by coming back to this slide. So the coursework requirements, let's say you said I believe it's the BCBA exam. In order to complete or to sit for the exam, you do have to pass all of these requirements, right? So you would need to complete 315 coursework hours, which is the full course sequence at UC Santa Barbara. You need to request that attestation, get it signed after you complete your competency course. You would also need to accrue those 2,000 supervised fieldwork hours, and then and only then can you apply to take the exam through the BACB. So all of those things have to happen before they will accept your application, and then you'll be able to sit for that exam. Shan, great question. Does UCSB offer any support in regards to learning billing for BCBAs? As a course, no. And this is because BCBAs bill in many different ways. You will typically get that training on the job based on what your funding source is. So for example, if you work with health insurance funding, you'll learn about health insurance billables. If you work through the regional center, you'll learn those regional center billables. And if you're working as I do at a school, you have to learn school district billables. So you'll see that it'll really just depend on the job that you're at, the company you work for, and how much of that you're required to do. So we can, if you have questions, it's a great one to bring to office hours or to chat with your instructor about. If you know a little bit more, perhaps if you work in an agency already and you know what type of funding sources you're going to have, your instructors would be happy to chat about those things. But in general, it is just so specific to each agency or each funding source that it wouldn't be beneficial to have a course on those. Great question. That's also hyper-specific on your state. So depending on what type of work you do in each state, that might really change what those billables look like. These are some excellent questions, guys. This is really giving me a lot of ideas of things we can put on a frequently asked questions. Also, perhaps different sites we can add for our next open house. Bonnie has a question. How does the UCSB supervision course differ from having a different supervisor? I'm not familiar with Whom House. I'm assuming that's an agency that maybe provides direct supervision. You can also look through the BACB's BCBA directory for people in your area. There are a lot of ways to get supervision. Our supervision course differs in that it's offered through a university, meaning you are definitely going to have someone available for the duration of your time. If, for example, I was doing your supervision and then something happened, who knows what, I moved to another place and I dropped the job, there will be another instructor to pick that up for you. So it's a little bit easier than trusting just one person who may not be able to forecast what the next 2 years will hold for them. It's also different in that we would be meeting virtually. So this will give you opportunity to meet with someone who you know is an established instructor who has a good pedigree and is able to meet with you virtually no matter where you are. So I'm located in Los Angeles. Like I said, I've had supervisees even in other countries. So that gives a lot more flexibility in terms of being able to find a quality supervisor. But in general, all types of supervision will typically cost some kind of amount of money, and you'll have to go through some type of agency if you cannot get those at your workplace. So they all come with their pros and cons. Shan, is the 1,500 concentrated hours an option? It is sure an option for BCBAs in general, but our program does not offer concentrated fieldwork. Typically, concentrated fieldwork is more of a practicum that's done in person. So it's very rare that you would see a virtual option for a concentrated fieldwork. So ours will be that independent fieldwork, supervised fieldwork option. Melissa, can you explain the difference between supervised and unsupervised hours? Good question. So in general, let's say you are working at an agency and you work 40 hours a week. You would require 5% of those hours to be supervised, which means in general, let me pull up my calculator real quick. You would need at least 2 hours of supervision per week. That means that you would have 40 times 4, which is actually beyond the maximum. So for 130 hours per month, which is the maximum support or the maximum supervision you can accrue for the BACB, you need at least 6.5 hours of supervision. So that can be completed in terms of group supervision, individual supervision. We have projects and things that go towards those totals. If you're submitting your videos that are getting supported, but it does require 6.5 hours of supervision by your supervisor each month.